Hey there, friends. Bill MacDonald here to talk about reading. In a writing assignment, repetition is frowned upon greatly unless it's done to emphasize something specific. So when you're writing expository and you have 10 sentences, but 5 of them have the same content, the same words or phrases written over and over again, unless that was done for some sort of emphasis, for a purpose, for a reason, then those 10 sentences are really only 5 sentences because repetition doesn't count for development. Now, the reading question I'm going to talk about is sometimes in a poem or in a play or a story, there's purposeful repetition. So for all of you grades that have questions regarding repetition, be careful when the question is asking about 2 different scenes or lines or stanzas, because if it says something, if it says lines blah, 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 and lines blah, 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 that means whichever answer choice you choose has to be true for both of them. And so what I noticed that became a distractor on one of the reading questions for this past year was that 1, 2, sometimes 3 of the answers are true for one of the lines or the other, but the question said blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. So let's take a look at the question so you can use my graphic organizer or something like it to help your students differentiate when they're asking questions like this. So we're going to read loudly because we're just practicing, underline to understand, and label, mark in whatever way you've been teaching your students. In lines 1 through 4, and so I drew a little circle there and put a little T between them because as I transition from lines 1 through 4 to lines 38 through 41, the placement and repetition of single words are meant to emphasize what? And so even though this is a 3rd grade question, your students have to really focus on why repetition is there, regardless of what grade level. So I kind of drew a little circle of representing my head. And so I have lines 1 through 4 there. And then I have my circle of my head and 38 through 41. So it's got 4 different choices. So what they're trying to say is, how do these lines compare? Which one of these should I select in the book and the Scantron or submit into my computer after I've eliminated the others and explained why I should eliminate them? So what I've done for you, I've gone to my READ-VISING graphic organizer where you can talk about an entire passage or selection. I'll zoom out a little bit here so you can see a little bit more of it. There'll be questions that are inside a box or a sentence where you have to inference or read between the lines, draw conclusions. It could be questions about the whole passage selection, or the thumb could be a topic sentence, a main idea of a paragraph, and these are all the specific supporting sentences. It could ask you one of these yellow questions that are usually about the whole paragraph or the whole passage. It could be any other one of these P's. It's a poem. The purpose is a poem, and it's only certain lines on the poem. So there's repetition. So it's only asking about just a couple of words. So instead of looking at the section that covers entire paragraphs or passages or stanzas or entire sections, I'm going to go down to the arm part of my READ-VISING graphic organizer. I'm going to go past sentences in a paragraph, past combining sentences. I'm going to go down here to the relationship between two different things, between words, between phrases, between sentences, or between paragraphs, between stanzas. So they said, how is the repetition on lines 1 through 4, pop, 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 pop is what it says, and lines 38 through 41, somebody saying, So it's going to have to be true for both sets of lines, which means we're comparing. So it's transitioning. As you transition from one set of lines to the other set of lines, what is true about both of them. So that's why I put the word and to connect them. So a transition is a teeter for lines 1 through 4 and a totter for lines 38 through 41. A C for lines 1 through 4. What do you see there? And what was it that you saw in lines 38 through 41 that would be true about both of them? You could do cause and effect relationships. Why? What was the reason for some effect, some result, for something that happened? Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. So what was the action that caused the reaction? If there's a conflict, there should be a resolution. Sometimes things are left without a resolution, so you just have to know that. If we're looking at paired passages, we're going to compare this passage we'll call the green to this one that we'll call the yellow. Are we comparing something about the passages? Where there's something, a similar concept or skill or scheme? Or are we contrasting them where there's something different? So think of yellow as in contrasting and green as in comparing. So we're comparing, so we're going to look for something that's the same, something that's true about both. So letter F, and as you can see, it's all right there. I just kind of repeated and just put the most important words. Letter F says that the speaker is talking. Since line 1 through 4 is just the sound the popcorn makes when it's inside the microwave, and lines 38 through 31 is the speaker saying, then it's not true for this side. So because it's only true for one side, you would eliminate that letter. Sounds of popcorn. Pop, 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 pop. That's called onomatopoeia figurative language. That's true that popcorn does make that basic sound. Does the sound of popcorn sound like Popcorn cannot talk. That would be using personification, and you can check the poem that I wrote, but you're not going to see the popcorn talking. It's the person talking to himself, or in this case to the reader, since we're reading the poem together. The speaker enjoying the flavor. Pop, pop, pop. Because that's just a sound, I would have to check lines 5 through 8, because if it says the speaker enjoying the flavor, well, I'm not even going to check, because if you're just hearing noises, I can't use lines 1 through 4 to have flavor. They're not going to be still popping in my mouth, but just to be on the safe side, we'll check lines 1 through 4 and then check and see if it's coming from my mouth. There's I need to fix that. I will fix that today. There's a very loud noise coming from my microwave. So since the noise is not coming from my mouth, I'm not enjoying the flavor. So we are going to eliminate letter H, because pop, pop, pop is not me not enjoying the flavor. Yes, I'm enjoying the flavor. So as you noticed, all three of these one of them is true. And so the students, the 1/3, a little bit more than 1/3 of the kids in the state who took this test didn't think clearly about both of them and see how they connect. Things the reader can hear. Could I hear the sound of the popping that is taking place in the microwave? Yes. Could I hear the sound of the person saying, yes. So those are two things that the reader can hear: the sound of the popcorn and the sound the person is making as he's enjoying it once it's finally finished. So because only one of those is true for both, using the teeter-totter, you can think of it as a transmission. As I move from lines 1 through 4 in my transmission, using a similar word to a transition, to over to lines 38 through 41, what was the similar thing? The reader got to hear, using his ears, pop, 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 mm, mm. And I intentionally, on one of my questions, put an extra line, and I'll show that to you so that your students can kind of do this. Lines 38 through 42, there's only 41 lines. So what I want you to do is to add something else besides, if I could say one more thing, what might it be? Without having to repeat myself, I would love to know the voice of your students is, what would you say? But we'll answer the question throughout lines 38 through 42, how the speaker feels. And the reason I'm saying 42 is you have to make sure that that's a positive dialogue, pensive about how the popcorn is going to taste. That means you're just thinking, okay? Since actual words came out of my mouth, when you look up pensive in the dictionary, it's only going to be talking about your thoughts, you're very thought-provoking, you're pausing to contemplate something. Surprised that the popcorn didn't burn in the microwave. Doesn't sound like I'm surprised. I might be surprised about how great my popcorn cooking is, even though the microwave did all the work. I don't think surprised about the popcorn not burning would be true. Okay. There was no thinking going on. It was just speaking. So what are we doing? We're eliminating the parts that make it untrue. Excited about the taste of the popcorn as he's eating it. Yes, that is true. So as I mentioned, if you were going to add one more line, what else could you say that takes away from repetition that we could add? What would I say? Something creative, something unique, something original that could be me showing my excitement through my dialogue. I'm anxious to be able to finally eat the popcorn. There's no anxiety. I could have had my heart racing 100 miles an hour. I'm spinning in circles. I'm slamming the microwave. I'm busting the bag open. Whatever shows anxiety, things you do when they say show, don't tell. Basically, you're going to underline the emotion word or put a heart around it, like I tell students to do, and then think, what would somebody be doing if they were anxious? Or what would they be saying? I don't think I would be saying, because I'm already enjoying it. I don't have anxiety anymore. So I would eliminate that one. So tying question 1, which got 67%, how the speaker feels at that point, just at that point, would be probably pretty excited. So I could draw the little heart there and choose letter C. I did read, and I only focused from lines 38 through 40, 38, 39, 40, 41. And like I said, challenge your students to add what they would say if they were enjoying the taste of the popcorn. So I only have one more video to go with this poem, and it's basically going to be, how does the author, the speaker of the poem, feel throughout the poem? And so what we're going to do is I'm going to practice. It's an open-ended short answer, and so we're going to allow for 1 point for answering the question in a logical way, and then another point. Can you show me some lines or a line that back up your answer to the question? And because it's going to be typed, it'll mean that to get those 2 points, the person who reads it is going to have to determine, did you A, answer the question, and B, did you give textual evidence? Did you use certain lines in the poem to demonstrate how the author basically feels throughout the poem? Because there's certain ways that I might feel, if you look this way, I might feel a certain way at the beginning. I might feel a different way in the middle, and I might feel a different way at the end. So some emotion that allows me to feel that way throughout the entire poem, because I can feel my muscles moving when I'm wiggling all my fingers. I can't feel all my muscles moving at the beginning of my poem, at the end of my poem, or in the middle of my poem. So you have to think of something. That means you would probably have to give some lines towards the beginning, a couple more lines in the middle, and a couple lines in the end that kind of demonstrate the feeling that is consistent throughout the poem. That's going to be my next post for you guys, and that'll include all of the explosion in the house. For extra credit, because I don't think I asked this question. I was going to, but if you were to ask the students, because I didn't ask the question, if we look at the title, I'll show that to you real quick. It's just something that came to my mind after I had already written the questions. The title says explosion in the house. So if you were to guess the room that most likely the poem takes place, because microwave is the big clue, the majority of families only have a microwave in their kitchen. So it would be awkward to have one in the bathroom or a bedroom or in a hall. Normally, it would be in the dining room or in the kitchen, the place that you're going to eat, because our microwave is specifically for heating up things that you can eat or drink. So that does it for today's, well, I'm going to finish up this poem today and then send it out to all of you who got the 30% growth in 30 days for $30. And we're going to keep moving around on all different types of objectives and grade levels and questions. Always feel free to message me if there's a specific star question or from your state where the students are struggling with a specific reading skill, and there's a question and the majority of your kids got the answer wrong, then send it to me. And as long as you feel like that the answer choice that's correct is legitimate, because sometimes there's some weird answers out there, then go ahead and message me or take a screenshot of it, send it to me, and I will help all of you who are part of the 30-30-30 plan to make sure that I can help you with your specific skills and content, the areas that your students are struggling with. For those of you that are part of the STAR writing guide, some of you purchased both. You'll be getting both the expository and persuasive because you're high school teachers. possibly in Texas or other grade levels in other states where you're being tested on expository and persuasive, but you're also going to be tested most likely on all the different reading skills. So I'm going to be using all genres and alternating back and forth between poems and fiction, literary nonfiction, informative, text, persuasive, argumentative, plays. By the time we finish, I'm going to be covering those kinds of questions for all different genres and all different grade levels. And because starting next year, the open-ended questions are also going to be in math, social studies, and science, I'll be spending a lot of my summer months, for those of you that have the 30, 30, 30, you just let me know the subject that you teach, and I'll make sure that I show you how to answer what's going to be constructed responses in your subject and short answer if you teach math, social studies, science, biology, algebra. A lot of times the math questions, are they going to continue to have the grid responses where there's no answer? Your kid just have to bubble in and write their answer by computer and fill in the correct bubbles that correspond with the numbers. So take care and hope you enjoyed the video comparing and contrasting, but in this case, comparing blah and blah, blah and bling, to see which one is true about both of them. Take care and God bless.